Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. We begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we send peace and salutation upon his last and final messenger, Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Thank you all for joining us for the second podcast session. And today we have with us Sister Hina Ahmed Iraqi. She is an accomplished educational expert with a strong background in curriculum development, tailored for the MENA region, that is the Middle East and North African region. She's currently holding the position of a full-time English lecturer within the education faculty at the International Open University and concurrently serving in as a dedicated publications officer with the research faculty. With a decade of experience in education, Sister Hena brings in a wealth of knowledge to her endeavors. Her academic background includes a master's degree in international education from the prestigious University of Leicester, UK, further enhancing her capabilities in the field. She's also a certified teacher of English as a foreign language, signifying her commitment to excellence in language instruction. Her current scholarly pursuits revolve around an in-depth exploration of English linguistics and the study of cross-cultural communication. So that's about Sister Hina Ahmed. Thank you so much for joining us, Sister Hina Ahmed. Welcome to the session.
Thank you, Brother Mansoor. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And I'm really glad to be a part of this discussion. Inshallah, let's see how it goes from here.
Yes, inshallah. Barakallahu fiki. So let us start a bit more about yourself. I have given an introduction about you, but if you would like to share a little bit more about yourself, which is not covered in that short bio of yours, and share a bit about your journey in the field of education. You had a master's in international education. So what really brought you to this field?
The introduction was pretty comprehensive, but just a little bit more. So I'm originally from India, but I live in Jordan. And my learning path has been pretty interesting because as a student, I started off and graduated in the field of medicine. But then I found my true calling in education. So I just decided to take the leap and switch towards education completely. Subsequently, I pursued my master's, like you said, from the UK, and I took up different courses in the field of education. And I've spent the last decade just diving deep into this field. So that's just
Inshallah.
a little bit more to
What
what
was
you've already
the
mentioned.
inspiration to move into the field of English?
So I think the most important thing was that I saw that language and linguistics, they were always interesting to me, but I just felt that they just added a layer to my journey in the field of education. And I just wanted to explore the intricacies of language further. And then just seeing how language shapes thoughts, perceptions, and interactions between people, I think that's really fascinating for me. And I believe personally that a solid foundation in English will help equip individuals with very important communication skills that are very important in today's interconnected world. So all of that just drew me towards the field of English.
When you say that you've done your specialization in English, is that or in international education and your interest is drawn towards English, is it only restricted to the language aspect of English or the literature aspect, the poetry aspect, and so on and so forth?
I think English is a very broad subject and it covers many different aspects from grammar to literature. And I think all of that is interesting in its own manner. So English actually, as it is a very universal language. And it has a very important role in connecting people across cultures and borders. It also opens a door for, a world of knowledge, like you can see with our university where everything is taught in English. So there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of understanding happening. So it's not just the language that you're learning, but it's actually a bridge that can help to create better connections, promote cross-cultural dialogue. And in terms of literature, I think the art of storytelling, telling stories, captivating and engaging readers, I think that is a very important aspect of literature that is very interesting and something that I really personally take a lot of interest in, just analyzing how authors structure their plots, how characters are developed, and the aspect of English on the whole, whether it is literature or grammar or linguistics, I think the aspect of critical thinking that literature, that English itself encourages is very important. And it's something that can be applied across all fields of study. So it's an important subject, and all of its parts, I think, are essential.
In terms of literature and in terms of the authors you have studied and who have fascinated you a lot, for example, I mean, for us as students of English back in high school, and
Right.
for us, it was only about Shakespeare. You know, we studied Shakespeare, and that was for us an epitome that we had to master the Shakespeare in English, whether it was Merchant of Venice or Hamlet. Those were the two plays that we studied, or for that matter, a bit of poetry, reading about Tennyson, etc. And that also was limited to one short poem of Frost or Tennyson and so on and so forth. Oh, sorry, Robert Louis Stevenson, and so on and so forth. But how different is it actually when you are studying English at a higher level? Is it only as simple as what we've studied at higher school, or it goes into further depths? And who are the authors or who are the playwrights who have impressed you or fascinated you the most?
Actually, to tell you honestly, it's none of the English authors or English playwrights that have inspired me. It's actually, um, if you are to study the golden age of Islamic civilization, and you will see that there's a lot that has come from there in world literature and a lot of intellectual history that has been come out. And I would say for me, it was Al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, who was a very, very prominent literary person, a prominent philosopher, and he has had a profound impact on various fields. So he's talked about philosophy. He's integrated Islamic thought into it. He's revived religious sciences through language communication. So his translated works in English, I think those are one of the most for me, they are very inspiring, and I find a lot of inspiration from them. Of course, we've got Shakespeare and we've got the famous poets like you've mentioned. Uh, and it's good to see that you still remember them after so many years. So, yes, for me, this is one specific author or literary period that I actually resonate with a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, there are a few things
Yeah,
which we were made to memorize. So the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven upon the place
that's
beneath. It
right.
is twice blessed. That's it. So we only remembered as much as it was important for us to clear our board exams or high school exams. So
Right.
that's why these are certain things. And of course, those are impressionable age, isn't it? That's why education
Yes,
at that age is so critical,
it's
because
very
whatever you
important,
learn,
definitely.
yes,
Yes.
it remains part of your life. In fact, a remarkable thing which we weren't really understanding at that point of time, though our teacher used to pay stress on it, was the cultural aspect which you mentioned. That through the
Yes,
language, you are able to understand the culture. And specifically talking about Shakespeare and his plays, the fact that the roles of young girls were being played by young boys who used to cross dress, which actually also
yes,
talks about what was the role of women in that society. It talks about the
definitely.
Shakespeare play on Merchant of Venice, talks about interest and prohibition of interest. Interestingly,
Mm-hmm.
money gratis. Shylock
Mm-hmm.
is the Jew who is charging interest, exorbitant rate. So there's a lot of aspects of culture which you derive from this, isn't it?
Definitely, there's a lot that we can derive from it, and a lot of the English culture actually, and the situation of that time that you get to learn a lot. So that's one aspect of English literature where you don't just read literature, you understand the historical context behind it to be able to, empathize or get to know better about those periods of time and what made the writers produce such pieces of work. So that is one
Oh.
aspect, let's say, of literature, definitely.
Okay.
Right.
So let's talk about your teaching philosophy. Now, before we talk about what you're doing at the IOU,
Mhm.
can you just tell me generally, what is the teaching philosophy that you adopt when you are dealing with your students?
All right. So my teaching philosophy, I don't really prefer going through the traditional route like we did in school or that regular university programs because this is international open university. It has to have something different. And so for me, my English teaching philosophy here is that it has to be within an Islamic context. So we have to follow a principle of holistic education. So we're not just giving language skills to the students, we're also imparting spiritual, ethical, cultural growth amongst them. So we're trying to integrate what we have already with Islamic values, with Islamic teachings, so it becomes more culturally sensitive. So for us in our community, it's very important that we maintain this cultural sensitivity. And so I try to ensure that the materials that we have, the discussions in our classroom, we respect those Islamic traditions, those values, those sensitivities. At the same time, we're producing something that's inclusive and supportive while we're enhancing their language and communication skills. So this is my approach, a holistic, Islamically rooted philosophy of teaching the language.
There's a very famous Islamic propagator, Sheikh Ahmed, may Allah have mercy on his
Mhm.
soul. I don't know if you had a chance to watch some of his lectures. So back in the days, the most famous English translation of the Quran, which was available, freely available, easily available, was Abdullah Yusuf Ali. That was the most
Mhm.
famous translation. Now, of course, you have many different
Many
interpretations and
different types,
not
yes.
interpretations rather, but
Right.
translations or interpretations of the meanings. Sahih International being one of them, which is very prominent.
Yes.
So I remember Didat saying in his lectures when he used to engage in dawah work and he used to talk to the Muslims and the
Mhm.
non-Muslims about it. He used to say that
Yes.
when you're reading Abdullah Yusuf Ali, apart from the fact that you're allowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to talk to you through the Quran, your English is improving.
Yes.
And then he used to give the example, look at
True.
the language. Behold, the angel said, "Oh Mary."
Yes.
So the behold, this is not common English. This is not normal English. So your English is
Exactly.
improving.
Yes.
So from the point of view of this language development that we have seen, the English which used to be there at the time of Shakespeare has evolved
It's
to what we are
different. It's
using.
evolved a lot. I think it's more about being able to communicate freely than
Mhm,
sticking to traditional grammar rules. I think what is important
mhm,
nowadays with globalization and how things are changing and interconnectedness, I think people want to be able to communicate more than to
mhm,
communicate accurately. And
mhm,
I think it's fine as long as you're able to communicate your needs, you're able to communicate what needs to be said and done. Even language has to evolve. We cannot have anything stagnant for a long period of time. Everything has to change with times. We have to adapt. I mean, this is our generation, and then the generation after us, the language is going to be even more different for them. So
mhm.
it's a continuously evolving aspect of communication that even language has to change with time.
Correct.
So
Uh, it's more like how we see in Arabic, the Arabic which we find in the Hadith literature,
different
the is
dialects are
different
also there.
from
Yes,
what was
yes,
used today, the modern standard
yes,
Arabic, the spoken
definitely.
language.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
let's come back to your teaching. You were talking about your teaching philosophy and how you try to
Hmm.
Islamicize your teaching. So, are there any
Right.
other innovative tools or teaching methodologies that you are using in order to get the students more engaged in a
Right.
language course?
So I try to do a lot of multimedia integration, obviously, because we are a virtual university. So multimedia is very big for us. So I try to use a lot of videos, interactive websites, and then, of course, we have digital discussion platforms where students are allowed to engage in thoughtful conversations. And of course, I try to encourage them to talk about different English texts, even from an Islamic perspective, if they want. And of course, online literary circles is a new idea that I want to introduce in the coming semester, where I want to establish some kind of an online book club or a literary circle focused on English literature with Islamic themes. So we have a lot of collaborative reading and discussion among students. It's not just about, reading the course material and getting marks. I want them to be able to apply what they get in their real life situation. So that's one thing that I would like to introduce in the next semester, inshallah.
Inshallah, that sounds interesting. Um, Tell me something from the about the university and the English courses that you are teaching. Why would you
Mhm.
want to recommend our university's English program to those students who are coming from countries where their primary language is not English? Why would you want, or for that matter, students across the globe? Why should they join the
Mhm.
International Open University's English courses and programs, our education program? How can they benefit?
I think the main thing about International Open University is that it offers a range of English programs. So we're not focused on one specific English course. We've got a variety of courses that can cater to different levels. So you can have students who are really weak in the language and they want to start from the basics. So we have courses like English 101, English language studies that can help them to improve their academic skills. Then there are students who would want to learn a bit more in terms of, literature. So we've got literary programs over the literary courses, like we've got English fiction, and then we've got some new courses coming up, inshallah, in the next semester, like English prose and so on and so forth. And then we've got communicative English, which is for those students who would like to enhance their communication skills. So I think what sets us apart is the fact that we're offering so many different types of courses for different levels within an Islamic perspective. I think that is our main thing, that we're giving all of this within an Islamic perspective, and we're encouraging them to apply Islamic connections with their learning. So they're learning their language in a very holistic manner. So for me, I think that is what is unique about International Open University, where we're, at the same time, we're giving them cultural understanding, we're showing them different
Mhm.
cultures through language, and at the same time, they're also imbibing their values within it. So it's a
Mhm.
very tailored approach for them.
How important is reading as a habit in order to improve English? Because we find that Ahmadinejad used to say that the first ayah or the first verse of the Quran to be revealed was Iqra, read,
Could
recite,
read, yes,
proclaim.
definitely.
And we are the community which is the one which least is involved in reading. So, how important is reading, and why should one cultivate habits of reading in their life?
I think reading is very, very essential. Now, the thing is that in the earlier times, I mean, we still do have printed books and the paperbacks, but now I think with things evolving and everything is becoming more digital, we are a digital open university as well. The way of reading has changed, and attention spans have become less. So I think that it's important that you should just read wherever, whenever you get the time. I don't think that I mean, it's good to set aside the time to read, but with these days distractions and with the amount of things people are doing, I think even if you just have 5 minutes a day to just read anything, I'm not even saying any specific genre or any specific form of reading, I'm saying just read anything, because even that will help you in enhancing your language or improving your skills or learning new information. So read just about anything that you can find, whether it is online, whether it is on paperback, but just read. I think it's very important that we keep this habit maintained, and it's the main way of getting information and learning, and and passing information on to people. So yes, definitely try and read, and take out some time in the day, maybe 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes, and then you can gradually start developing 10 minutes and then 15 minutes. It has to become a habit first, and then it becomes your routine.
A bit more on reading that we will talk of in due
Hmm.
course of time. But before I move to that, I would like to know how do you think studying English language or English literature is going to prepare our students for the broader world?
Most importantly, it gives you cultural understanding. And nowadays, we're all about, understanding each other and being being tolerant of each other. If you know the language, you will understand the people better. You will be able to communicate better. So you are not just thriving academically, you are someone who's thriving spiritually, someone who's thriving personally. And you can excel in this way within your community and on the global platform as well, especially in situations where you would like to give dawah about your religion. If you do not know the language, if you do not know the culture, you will not be able to resonate with the audience. You will not be able to get your message across. So language is a very important tool, especially English language, because English is one of the most dominant languages in the global platform. So it is essential that we know this global language and we learn how to communicate with it effectively so that we are able to represent ourselves effectively within the community or on a global platform.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about communication,
Mm-hmm.
the art of communication is not merely about being able to speak English or speak any language for that matter. It is
Yes,
the art of knowing the use of right words to express your emotions and your thoughts. And that's why we will find that the best of communicator are those who are able to always find the right word to express their emotions. And that's where we are able to connect with them. When we listen to them, we feel they're talking to us because they're using the right
yes,
terminology or the right word to connect with us. And that brings us to the importance of vocabulary, how important it is to develop and build vocabulary. And that's where I come back to reading, the role that
Yes,
reading
definitely.
plays in building vocabulary. Can you talk a bit about that?
I think reading has a very, very important role in vocabulary, and that is why I say even if you take 5 minutes to read, take it out and read, because you never know what words you might come across. You never know um, what terms or what aspects of linguistics you might learn without even knowing that you're doing it. So it's like it's something that you're not even doing voluntarily, but just because you're reading it, it comes across and it stays in your subconscious, and then you kind of apply it later on. So it's also very essential that you know vocabulary well, because that's how you will understand texts better. So if it's not just your English course that you're doing at a university, for example, I'm talking about the university again, it might be another course that you're doing. If your vocabulary is weak, you will not understand that course as
Mhm.
well, as effectively. So if your vocabulary is strong, if you have been reading, it will even help you with your other courses to be able to understand what your lecturer is trying to tell you, what the reading material is about, because the reading materials are still, pretty dense, and there's a lot of language that is from professors who are from a generation that's not the present one. So there is language that is a little difficult. So if you have good vocabulary skills, you'll be able to read those advanced texts. You'll be able to understand more. You'll be able to improve your communication skills better, like you said. So it's a full circle actually. It starts with there and it comes back all over again to reading.
A common question that I often face from a lot of people who attend my lectures and workshops, I'm sure you must be also receiving these kind of questions being an English teacher. How can
Mm-hmm.
we speak English? How can I make my child speak good English? How do you deal with these kind of questions? What suggestions and recommendations do you have, let's say, for different age groups? How can they start picking up on language and speaking good English?
I think this is a very broad topic, actually, to be honest. And there's a lot within that we can do and we can help with. But for me, I think the question itself, the basis of the question itself, is something that needs to change first. It's not about just speaking good English that will make you look educated.
Mhm.
It's about knowing how to communicate yourself, which is more important. Like you said earlier, yes, it's important that you are able to speak fluently. Speaking fluently and speaking good English are two different things. For people, I think in our region, it's important that you speak with a certain accent to be
Mhm.
considered as someone who has good English. But that's not the real case. I mean, you can have your own native accent. It's fine. As long as you're talking as long as you're speaking it in the correct structure, the correct grammar, it's fine. And I think that is where we have to start changing things first, as to the concept that good English is equals to good accent or somebody who speaks
Mhm.
English very fast. So that's one thing that needs to change. And then, of course, we have to start building language skills from early on.
Mhm.
English is not the first language for most of us. It's something that we learn at school as a second language. So, like any other second language, we have to build up on the skills, start from scratch, look at the grammar rules, be strong on grammar rules, practice a lot of reading, writing. Comprehension is very important. You might be a very good reader, but if you're not understanding what you're reading, there's no point. So, comprehension is very important. So, these are all different skills that need to be developed at different periods of time. In
Mhm.
children, and of course, in the university level, also we have people who come in who want to learn English from scratch. We've got courses for them as well, where we start building it up from scratch and then we gradually progress over different semesters.
Coming back
Yeah,
to
definitely.
your personal life now, let's move up beyond classroom. Let's talk about your personal aspects, your personal insights. So, what are some of your hobbies and interests apart from teaching English or reading books?
I think everything for me is revolved around English. So I like
Okay.
journaling. I think it's a very reflective
Okay.
practice and I really enjoy it a lot. So it helps me, capture my thoughts, my experiences as I navigate through different aspects of my life. And I think it's something even students should try doing. Other than that, I like hiking. I really
Mhm.
love exploring nature. And I really feel that, going
Mashallah.
outdoors is, the physical activity itself, it's a very good thing. And of course, my most favorite one is calligraphy. And I'm just
Mhm.
learning Arabic calligraphy now, and I find it very
Mashallah.
beautiful and something that is very creative. So these are just some basic
Mashallah.
things that I like to do
Mashallah.
outside of work.
Okay. Any recommendations that you have for our students in terms of books that they can read within the English canon or outside the English canon, which you would like to share with our students and those
So
watching us?
I've got a lot of book recommendations, which is why I want to
Mhm.
start this reading library or reading circle in the next semester, inshallah. I think it'll be
Inshallah.
pretty successful. Um, at present, I am reading a book by Yasir Qadhi. I'm sure you all must have heard of him.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's
yes.
called Parables of the Quran. And Parables
Mhm.
of the Quran is a very interesting book that he just released this year. And it talks about, he's trying to connect the English language to Quranic parables. So for those of us whose Arabic is not so strong and who don't really have, and we want to understand the Quran better, I think it's an excellent book because it's giving you connections of different symbols in the Quran, different types of imagery, so you understand what message is being conveyed to you in a very beautiful manner. So I would recommend everyone to read that Parables of the Quran by Yasir Qadhi, and um, I'm sure you will find it very interesting.
Okay, thank you so much for that recommendation. Now, final thoughts as we start off the fall 2023 semester. Do you have any words of advice or encouragement for those students who will be joining us afresh? And for those who are watching this and are considering joining us, what recommendation and advice do you have for them?
I think that the most important thing that you should do when you join is that you should come with the mind of learning something and taking it and applying it in your life, not just reading materials and getting good marks. That is very important, but it is also important that you don't just make that your focus because then at the end of the day, you're not going to learn anything. It's important that whatever you're reading, you try and apply it in your real life, communicate it, try and teach it to other people, write about it, do something that makes a connection in your real life with what you're learning. I think that's the most important thing. Don't stress about getting full marks. Don't stress about, a percent of mark here and there. Those are a part of being successful students, but not the only thing. Come with an open mind, enjoy your learning, practice a lot. Practice makes perfect. And it's really true. I mean, the more you practice whatever skill you're doing, whatever course you're doing, practice it. These are just some basic things I'd like you all to keep in mind, inshallah, when you join and just enjoy the learning journey, inshallah.
Inshallah. Application is such a critical thing that we need to do in all forms of our life. In fact, if we look into the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi
Definitely.
Wasallam, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not come down and give a set of rules and regulation and expected the people to now start following all of
Yes.
them, but rather it happened in a phased manner. So there would be situations which
Yes.
they would encounter, and then there would be learnings from there. They would apply it. And in fact, we have this incident where Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, if I quoting correctly, it
Mm-hmm.
was when he was being sent to Yemen. And the Prophet ﷺ instructed them that when you're going there, invite people to the kalima, the tawheed. And if they accept it
Mm-hmm.
and implement it, then call them towards prayers, because prayer or the salah is the best expression of tawheed, that you are prostrating in front of your Rabb and you're asking your Rabb alone. And if they are good with that, then invite them towards fasting in the month of Ramadan. So you can see very clearly how the Prophet ﷺ was instructing the companions, how they used that they need to go and share the message, make sure that people start applying it and becoming thorough with it. And as they become thorough with it, keep moving to the next level, keep putting them to a
Yes.
new teaching, a new learning.
That's definitely what I want all of everybody who's listening to apply. And Brother Mansoor has put it out very well. Jazakallah khair.
What's one thing that you would hope all of your students would like to take away from the courses that you are teaching in the International Open University?
I just hope that they apply what they learn with the other courses that they're studying as well, because we have other courses in English. And I think the English courses that we're offering at the university are very important to help you build a foundation to be able to apply your skills for the other courses so that you produce good material. You contribute to the literary community, the Islamic community, and you produce good research papers. You are good communicators of the language, of your religion, of your concepts. So I think these English courses are really important in helping you start your journey in all of these aspects.
Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. My dear students and all of those who are watching this session, the language, English, if you're learning it, if you're getting an opportunity, see this as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While I am a firm believer that we all have to strive to learn the most important language in any Muslim's life is Arabic. You have to learn that
Arabic,
language. We
definitely.
have to work on mastering that language of Arabic. But at the same
Yes.
time, today you are able to talk to people from different background, from different communities using English as the medium of communication. So now you don't have to learn another language to communicate with the person from another part of the world. Or somebody is in China, so you need to learn Chinese, or rather Mandarin is the language, right? So you don't have to
Yes.
learn their language or go to some other part of the world and learn some other language. English is that lingua
Universal
franca,
language,
the
basic.
universal
Yes.
language which is being used. So when you have that knowledge, you can start using this knowledge of the language to communicate the message of Islam with people. You can talk about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in terms of worshiping Him alone. So use this as an important tool to even pursue your dawah pursuits, inshallah ta'ala. This is my advice to all of you who are watching this session. Thank you so much, Sister Hena, for taking your time out and joining us for this morning's podcast session. Before we conclude, I would like you to have your final parting thoughts.
Alhamdulillah, if I want to talk about my personal journey with International Open University, I think it has been great. As a lecturer, as a publications officer, I think our community is doing an amazing job and we can contribute significantly on a global scale in terms of education, in terms of reform. And I just want to thank everybody at IOU for doing a wonderful job. And I think with even even better, inshallah. I hope that whoever joins us at International Open University will have the same experience, and we're always there to help you out as your lecturers. If you have any doubts, any questions, you're always free to communicate with us. And inshallah, we can together, build a good, strong community of educated people, inshallah, in the future.
Inshallah ta'ala. In fact, education is not the only program that the International Open University offers. So we have multiple programs that is there. You can join the business administration program if you wish to pursue your career in the field of business and management. Or if you wish to move to the banking circle, you can take up a course in Islamic banking and economics, where you learn the ethical approach towards banking and not just the conventional approach. Furthermore, if you feel that counseling and empathizing with people is one of your skills that you have and you want to hone it further, we have the Islamic psychology courses which you can work on. In addition to all of this, a course which is mandatory, I believe, for every Muslim, for every believer, is the Islamic studies course, where you learn the basics of the religion so that you are able to impart it to your children, to your spouses, to your family members, to those around you. So we have courses in Islamic studies as well, and we have courses in Arabic where you can learn the language Arabic. There are multiple courses available, and we also have information technology, the courses in IT. So multiple programs are available at the International Open University to cater to your needs. Now, you can go and visit our website, iou.edu.gm, check out the programs which is meeting your career goals and your aspirations that you have set out to achieve in your life. I would like to thank Sister Hina Ahmed once again for taking her time out and joining us for this session. Thank you so much. Barakallahu fiki. I would like to thank all of you for taking your time out and listening to this podcast session. Hopefully, I hope next week we can see you again with a new guest, inshallah. We'll be joined by Dr. Mansoor Rafiq from the Islamic Banking and the Business Administration Department, and we'll be talking a bit about Islamic finance and Islamic economics with her. Until then, thank you for joining the session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. لا إله